contents. This workshop will take around 1 hour. We will first be jumping over some prerequisites, an introduction, what is web development, an intro to HTML, and then we'll be doing some hands-on coding, which includes more on HTML and intro to CSS, how to deploy your website, which if we have more time, if we do have enough time, I'll go over the process of doing this, but if not, the instructions will be on the slides, and then some additional resources and a Q&A if time permits. So prerequisites. We will be using Replit as our IDE, but if you already have an IDE installed, you're welcome to use that instead. But if you don't have an IDE, I'll send the link to Replit. So yeah, you can make a Replit account, which is basically an online IDE. An IDE is basically a text editor for code. And you may be wondering why we're using Replit instead of other IDEs such as VS Code or 𝗏𝗲𝗡++. Replit is an online IDE, so you don't need to install anything. It also helps you set up the files needed for a basic website and can also be used to host your own website for free. So while I jump into the introductions, feel free to make a Replit account in the meantime. So for introduction, what is web development? Web development is basically involves developing your own website with code or a platform such as WordPress, Wix, etc. There are two types of websites, static and dynamic. A static website is a website that cannot be changed by users. We can only change things locally for us. And then a dynamic website is a website that can be changed by users. For example, social media platforms such as Instagram, because users can comment and like posts. So you may be wondering, why do we learn how to code our own websites when platforms such as WordPress, Wix, and Squarespace exist? Platforms such as Wordspace, Wix, and Squarespace have limitations. Knowing how to code your own website can allow you to add more functionality to your websites, which basically gives you more freedom. There's also front-end development and back-end development. So front-end development is what we will be learning today. It's basically how things look. We bring UI designs into reality, and we build things that users can see and interact with. Back-end development is how things look. So you work with cool stuff like databases and logic, program how data is processed, and much more. So here are the steps for building your own website. First, you would need a UI/UX design, or you can get a web designer. And then, because it's ideal to know how you want your website to look like before you start coding it, a good platform for building UI/UX designs is Figma. And then once you have your UI/UX design, you can collect some feedback because it's easier to redesign a web design than to recode your entire website. And then once you're proud of your UI/UX design, you can now begin coding your website. So this is going to be our UI/UX design. This is what we'll be making today. It's basically a copy of Linktree. And yeah, just a heads up that the website was zoomed out so you can see everything. The actual website will be a lot larger. So this is the website. This is what we will be making today. And yeah. So before we jump into some hands-on coding, I'm just going to give you all a brief introduction to HTML. Before we get started, so first, all websites contain HTML code, and it stands for Hypertext Markup Language. HTML is basically the backbone and structure of your website. CSS is used for styling and making it pretty, which we'll be learning later. If you ever try inspect elementing a website, what you see is HTML code, and then all HTML files end with the file extension .html. If you want to host your own website, your homepage must be called index.html, and every HTML file is its own page. So for example, I'm just going to demo inspect elementing a website. So this is our HackCamp website, which is a hackathon we hosted this month, 2 weeks ago. Yeah, I'm just going to demo inspect elementing this button. So what you see, all this is all HTML code. And this is the code for a button, which we'll be learning how to make later on in this workshop. And yeah. So this is the basic structure of a website. I'm just gonna drink some water for a second. I have a sore throat, so my throat is a bit dry right now. So this is the basic structure of a website. It's good to memorize this, but you don't have to because you can always Google it if you forget. If you run this code, you'll get a blank website because we haven't added anything to it. The HTML element wraps all the contents of the web page, and then the head element designates the header part of the document, where you basically add like optional information such as like the title, meta description, and website logos, and also external CSS style sheets. The body element contains the content of your website, like text, images, containers, etc. It doesn't really matter how you indent your code, it will still work, but having indents make your code much more readable and cleaner for others. If you're working in a group project, writing clean, readable code is key. So if you write your code in one line like this, it will still run, but this is more ideal because you see the indent, so you can see like what's in each container. And then to add text to a website, first you can just use you can make a heading or a paragraph. To make a heading, you can just use the h1 tag and then closing h1 tag and add your text inside it. And for paragraphs, you can use the p tag and then add your paragraph inside it and then close it using the p tag, and it will result in what you see on the right. And there are 6 types of headings. Font size decreases whenever the heading number increases. So for example, H1 is the largest heading, and then H6 is the smallest heading. And here's how you make a list in HTML. So to make a list, you'll need to use the UL tag. And then to make bullet points, you'll need the LI tag. So for example, LI Instagram, LI LinkedIn, LI Twitter, and this results in this. And then comments can be placed all around your code. They can be really useful, especially when you haven't touched your code in months and need a reminder of what this does. They don't affect how your code runs, but HTML code are like really useful because if you haven't touched your code in like, let's say a year, and then you go back to your website and you read it, you may forget what it does. So adding comments can be really useful. And to make a HTML comment, you can use the greater than or less than sign, exclamation mark, dash, dash. And then to close it, just do dash, dash, and then another greater than or less than sign. And inside it is your comment. And now we're going to jump into some hands-on coding. So I'll try to go slow for this portion. But to get started, fork this replit document. And then I'll also demo how to do this. But this is the link this is where the template is. So to demo forking this, we're just gonna share my different screen. Okay, so when you go on this link, what you see right now is, what you should see is this. Oh wait, okay, I have to log out. Okay, I'll go on a new link. Okay, the link isn't working for me right now, but does it work for everyone? Does it take you to a page where you can see the fork icon? Okay, cool. So if you click on the fork icon, it'll basically duplicate all this code. And yeah, the reason why we are duplicating it is because we have some images that we'll be using for our website, and it'll be difficult to send a .zip file, .zip folder through Zoom to make you all download it. So that's why we will just be duplicating this code. And all we have here is the basic structure of a HTML document, which we covered previously. And then for these two lines, these are just meta tags. So this basically sets the proportion of your website and makes it so that it's proportionate for mobile devices. This is basically sets our character type. And this links our CSS file, which we'll be using later. This links our JavaScript file, which we won't be using in this workshop, but I'll just keep it here in case you do decide to add some JavaScript to your code. So yeah, once we have this forked, we can jump into some actual coding. So we are going to first add a title and logo to our website. And to do this, we basically use the title tag. So if I want to title my website Nuggets website, you can just use the title tag and then the closing title tag and add your text here. And then to add a website icon, you can just do the link rel icon, type image, and then, oh, am I sharing the wrong window? Oh, okay, these are my notes. Okay, oops. All right, yeah, okay, this should work. So yeah, to add a icon to your, thank you. To add an icon to your website, you can use the link tag and rel equals icon, type image/x dash icon. And then for your href tag, this is the file path for your logo. And then when you run the code, you'll get this. So I'm just gonna demo this right now and feel free to follow along. So I'm just gonna zoom in on my code a bit. Is this large enough for everyone to see? Okay, cool. So I'm just gonna title my website Nuggets website. And you can name your website anything. If you want to make this your own personal link in bio page, you can name this, like you can add your name here instead. And then for my icon, to do this, just do a link ref icon, type image/x dash icon. And for your file path, so the image that we want as our icon is in our images folder, and then it's called favicon.co. So to add this image as our icon, you have to access the images folder and then type favicon.ico. And now when you run your code, so to run your code, you can click on this green run button, or you can do Control Enter. And then now if I run my code, I can open it up in a new web page just so it's larger. And if I click open in a new tab, it should open up here. And now you can see your website title and also website icon. Notice how our website is blank, and that's because we didn't add anything to it yet. We only added a website title and website icon. And then I'm just going to go over some important HTML tags/attributes, which we'll be using throughout this workshop. So to get started, a class, the HTML class attribute is used to specify a class for an HTML element. We'll be using classes to style our HTML elements with CSS later on in this workshop. You can name your classes anything. The class name is case sensitive, and classes can be reused. The div tag is a HTML element that basically acts like a container for all our elements, and we'll be using this throughout the workshop. And then the span tag is similar to the div tag. It's also like basically a container, but it'll be inline. So if you have, let's say you have two div containers, they'll be like stacked on top of each other. But then if you have two span containers, they'll be like on the same line. And then the next thing we will be doing is we're going to add an image using HTML to our website. So to add an image to our HTML website, we will have to use the image tag. And then we're just going to give it a class and call that class profile picture. And then src is the file path for our image, which is images/profile.jpg. And yeah, if you're wondering what this does, don't worry about it right now. We'll be linking this class to our CSS styles later on in this workshop. And yeah, usually when you code a website, you write your HTML and CSS at the same time. But just so you all don't mix up the differences between HTML and CSS, we'll be doing these separately. Oh yeah, and I forgot to send the slides into the chat. I'll do that right now just so you all can follow along, or go ahead if you find this too easy. So yeah, all the slides should be on the Zoom chat now. And yeah. If you do fall behind, you can also copy and paste the code. This is all text, so you can just copy and paste the code if you fall behind. Or you can do that after the workshop too. So yeah, I'm just gonna demo adding a image to our website. And then I'm gonna open back up my notes. Okay, so to add an image to our website, first indent your code and then do image. Image. I'm gonna give a class profile picture, which we'll be using later. And then src, here we specify the file path. So images/profile.jpg, and then you close it with this less than or greater than sign. And then now if you were to run your code, you would see an image right here. So I go on my website, and here I have a photo, an image of Nugget, which is one of our HackCamp mascots for nwPlus. And then notice how the image is really big. That's because we didn't resize it using CSS yet. We'll be resizing it later using CSS, but for now, I'm just gonna resize it with HTML, just so it doesn't cover the rest of the things we will be adding later on. And yeah, HTML can be used to resize images, but CSS is a cleaner way to do this. To do this in HTML, you can just do height equals, and I'm just gonna give this 80 pixels. And then for width, I'm gonna also give it 80 pixels, so it's a square. And then when I run my code again, the image is significantly smaller. Also, feel free to let me know if I am going a bit too fast. And yeah. And now we are going to put our image inside a container with text. So recall the this width and height thing is just so the image isn't too big. We'll be using CSS and removing this later. But yeah, we're gonna make a div container and give that a class about. And then we're gonna add the, okay, if the picture is not a square and you put the dimension as a square, does it distort the image or does it crop it? It will distort the image, I believe. We were gonna make a container, and then we're going to add the text nugget using the heading 2 tag and give it a class name. Oh yeah, and no, one pixel is relative to the view to 1 pixel of your viewing device. So yeah, I'm gonna demo how to make this div container. So I'm gonna make a div and then give it a class about. And then we have to close this div container. So anything inside this div container, anything like inside here will be inside the container. And class name. And then I'm gonna make my text say nugget. You can make your text say anything. And now when I run my code, we have the text nugget here. And then next we'll be adding hyperlinks. So anything inside the A tag will be hyperlinked, for example, images, text, etc. So this is how you add a hyperlink. You use the A tag, href, and then you specify the URL. And yeah, if you want the URL to open up in a new web page, you can add target equals _ blank. And yeah, right now we are going to create a button. And we're gonna make this look like a button later on using CSS. For now, it will just look like this. It will just be a hyperlink that says website alongside our nwPlus logo, which is a image. Later on, we are gonna use CSS to make it look like this. But yeah, I'm just gonna demo making this hyperlink now. So first use the A tag and then href. And here we specify the URL. So I'm gonna make this redirect users to the nwPlus website. I'm just gonna copy this nwPlus website. You can make it redirect users to any website you want. I'll send this URL here just in case you don't want to look for your own website. And then remember to close this A tag. And then here you can add text or an image. I'm just gonna add a span tag and then an image later on. I'll add the image first. So image class, I'll give this a class button icon. And then src, Here I'm specifying the image path, the file path of the image. So images slash fave icon.icu.ico. And then I'm gonna make a span. So this text will be inline, so it'll be on the same line as the image. And then I'm going to give my span a class button text. And then remember to close this. And then inside the span tag, I'll add the text website. So now when I run my code, I can refresh. And then if I click on this, it'll take me to the nwPlus website. And if I don't want this to replace the current tab I am on, I can add target equals underscore blank. So on my a tag, I can do target equals underscore blank. And now if I were to click on this hyperlink again, it'll open up the website in a new tab. So I'm gonna give you all 5 minutes to do a challenge. If you all do need more time later, I can extend it. But for now, make a list of all our social media icon images above our button. Hyperlink the icons, give our UL tag the class socials, give the LI tag the class social list, and then give the image tag the class social logo, and set the width and height of the icon image to 20 pixels. To save time, you can leave the href attribute empty, or you can just reuse this you reuse our website as the URL. And if you forget how to make a list, you can the answer is on the bottom left corner. So UL and then the LI tags for the bullet points. And it should look something like this. And yeah, I'll give you all 5 minutes to do this. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat and I'll answer them while this timer is on. Yeah, you can use this time to attempt this challenge or also ask any questions you may have right now. And if you don't know where the images can be found, they can be found on the left side of your screen and then in this images folder. How many of you are done this challenge? Okay. Oh, cool. Does anyone need more time? All right. I guess we can move on. So this is the answer. To do this, first we'll be creating the UL tag. And then for our bullet points, we'll be using the LI tag. And we will be adding hyperlinks, which redirect users to our Instagram page. And then we will also be adding the image for our social media logo, and then specifying width and height to 20 pixels. And yeah, 𝗪𝗓𝗃 specifies the image path, the file path of our images. And this gets repeated for LinkedIn, for our LinkedIn image and Twitter image. And yeah, I'll paste in the code into the chat in case you guys want to copy it. Yeah, all the code should be in the chat for this challenge, and I'm just gonna copy and paste this into my own document too. And now when I run my, oh, that's the timer. Okay. And now when I run my code, I should get this. So clicking on any of these should take us to one of the URLs that you specified. So here I specified our Instagram account. So if I click on this, it will take us to our Instagram account. And yeah, this. Okay, cool. And then I'm just gonna open this back up again. But yeah. And then we're just gonna duplicate our buttons 3 more times. So previously we wrote the code for our buttons. Yeah, just duplicate this 3 times and we should be good to move on to the CSS section in the next slide. So in your replit file, we have the code for 1 button. We're just gonna duplicate this 3 more times. And yeah, so we can have 4 buttons in total. And then if I were to run my code again, I would get something like this. And by default, all hyperlinks are in line. So that's why all these are on the same line. So CSS, recall that CSS is used to style your website, which is so like styling our HTML elements, and we'll be applying CSS to all the classes we made previously. The file extension for a CSS file is .css, for example, mystyles.css. And to add a comment in CSS, you can just do /*, I'm a comment, and then another asterisk, and then another slash. So anything in between this symbol and this symbol will be commented. So to link your CSS file, Replit already did it for us, and yeah, the code to do this is already in the template you forked. And there are 3 ways to add CSS to your HTML document: internal, external, and inline. The example above is external CSS. So to link an external CSS file is basically just this. Because we're connecting this CSS file with our HTML document. And yeah, if you want to learn the pros and cons of each method, you can click on this link. I personally chose external because I think it's cleaner. It's because we can separate like our HTML code and CSS code into 2 different files. And then adding universal styles and a background color. The asterisk is a selector that selects all elements in our HTML document. So this means that whatever styling is inside it will be applied to every element. So we are applying an Arial font to all our text. And then the body selector only selects our body tag. So here we are giving our website a background color with the hex code ABECF4. And yeah, I'm just gonna demo this right now so you can follow along. So go into your style.css file. And then to apply some styles to the rest of our website, we can just use the asterisk. And then I'm going to give our website, set the font for all our website text to Arial. So font family, Arial. And then for our body, which basically selects everything inside our body selectors, selects everything inside our body tag, I'm just going to give it a background of this. So ABEC F4. And I'll send the code into the chat just in case you didn't get the chance to copy this down. Yeah, when you run your code, so notice how this text, we don't have the Arial font yet. So when I refresh, the website should change. So the text font change and also the background color changes to this blue color. And yeah, I'll send the code into the chat too. And then now we're going to style our about section. So this is going to look something like this. And then to do this, we're going to use our about class that we made previously. So in our HTML document, we gave our div container the class about. So now we're going to style that about class. And then, yeah, so we're just going to add margin dash top 60 pixels, which adds some spacing above the container. So we're basically pushing it down. And then for our profile picture, we gave our image the class profile picture right here. So now we're going to use CSS to resize our image. We're no longer going to use HTML. So to do this, just add border dash radius 50%. This makes our image a circle. And we are going to give it a height of 100 pixels and width of 100 pixels. And we are also going to give a 1 pixel solid white border to it. So to do this, just do border and colon 1 pixel solid white. And then to center our container, just do display block and then margin 0 auto. And for our text nugget, we gave it the class name, and then to align it in the middle, just do text dash align center. So yeah, feel free to follow along while I write the code. Dot about. So for classes, you have to add a period behind it. And then for HTML tags, we don't have to do this. Also, the comments here, you don't have to write these. These are just comments, so basically just notes. It won't be ran, so all we have to write is the white text. And border 1 pixel solid white. And to center our profile picture, which to center our image, we're just going to do display block and then margin 0 auto. And for our text, we gave it the class name. So text align center. And now if I run my code, I should get something like this. Does anyone have any questions so far before we move on to the next slide? Okay, cool. So next we're going to style our button, which is basically our hyperlink. So this may look intimidating, but don't worry. CSS is basically like English, so it should be really easy to understand. So like background, white, and then color. This is for our text. And in CSS, they use the American spelling of color. So instead of COLOUR, it's just COLOR. And then yeah, here we are giving our button, which is our text, a text color of black, and then a background of white. And then by default, all hyperlinks are on the same line. So to make them all on separate lines, we're going to do display block. And then we're just going to specify the height and width of our button. So height 60 pixels, width 400 pixels. And to give it rounded corners, we are using border dash radius. So yeah, 20 pixels, and then margin 20 pixels auto. This adds spacing to the buttons above it and also centers it. And then to remove the default underline that all hyperlinks have, we're using text decoration none. And we're also going to align the text in the middle, bold the text using font weight, so vertically align the text using line height, and then also specify a font size for our text. So to demo this, I'm gonna style my button class and give it a background color of white. And then color black for our text color, and then display block to make it all on its own line. And then height 60 pixels, width 400 pixels, border dash radius 20 pixels, and then margins 20 pixels auto. We'll add spacing above and below it, but add 20 pixels of spacing above and below it, and also centers the button. Text decoration none. None. This removes the underline. Text align center. We'll center the text. Font weight bold. We'll bold the text. Line height 60 pixels. Vertically aligns the text because our button's height is 60 pixels. So we're gonna like align it in the center by making this the same as the height. And then font size 20 pixels just specifies the font size. So yeah, now that we have this, when I refresh, I have to run my code. Okay, the code isn't working. That means there's something wrong with it. Let's see. Oh, okay, I forgot to add the class to my hyperlink. Yeah, okay, so class button. Let's see if this works. Okay, yeah, that's styled one button. Cool, cool. So I just have to add the class to the rest of my buttons. Yeah, now when I run my code, my buttons now look like this. Now we just have to style the icon here. So to do this, we just have to do this. So to style our image, the image inside the button, we're going to use position relative, which allows us to reposition our elements relative to all the other elements inside it. Float left, which moves our image to the left without affecting elements relative to it. We are going to give it a width and height of 25 pixels, and then push it to the left by 50 pixels, and move the image down by 15 pixels. And yeah, just to make it aligned vertically. And yeah, in HTML, to move things down, use top, and to move things up, use bottom. Yeah, to demo this, I'm gonna access my button icon class. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat while I type my code. And then now if I run my code, this icon is now styled and it's on the left and also vertically aligned. I'll also send the code into the Zoom chat if you want to copy and paste it. And then next, we'll just be styling our social media logos. So previously, when you did the challenge, you gave your UL tag, which is the container for the bullet points. You gave that a class socials. And for each bullet point, you gave it a class social list. And for the image icon, you gave it a class social logo. So now we are just going to style that. So for your UL tag, we are adding list-style-type none, which removes the default bullet points on the list. And then display block margin 0 auto will just center each bullet point. And then padding 0 removes the default indent on the list. And then text align center will just center all our bullet points. And then remember how our bullet points, they are all on separate lines. To make them all on the same line, we are using display inline block. And then for our icons, we are going to give it a width 20 pixels, height 20 pixels, and then we are going to use the filter property to invert the colors of our image by 100%, which turns it from black to white, because when looking for images, I couldn't find a white logo. So we're just going to use CSS to invert the colors of this. And then, yeah, margin 10 pixels, add spacing in between each logo. So to demo this, about socials. And I'm going to make my screen a bit bigger. Style dash type none. This will remove the bullet points. Display block. Margin 0 auto will center the bullet points. And then padding 0 will remove the default indent, because by default, all bullet points are indented by a little bit. So we're just going to remove that default indent by using padding 0. And then text align center will center the bullet points. And then to style our bullet points, we are just going to make it on the same line. So display inline block. Line block. And then for the logo, for the image that you added, we're going to give it a width of 20 pixels, height of 20 pixels. And then we are going to invert the colors of the image. So filter, invert, 100%. And then margin 10 pixels, which just add some spacing in between each image, so that they're not like cluttered like, yeah. Okay, so now when you run your code, this is what you get. And then next, we're going to learn about hover animations. And to make a hover animation, we'll be using CSS pseudo classes. A pseudo class is basically a keyword added to a selector that specifies a special state of the selected elements. So to add a hover animation, we duplicate this dot button and we add :hover to it. And here we add the styles that will be applied to the element whenever it is hovered. So in this example, when the button is hovered, its background changes from white to this new hex code, which is 𝗏𝗶6185, which is like a grayish blue. And then we also change the color of the text to white. And what transition does is it gives it a smooth animation, so that it slowly transitions into its new styles instead of instantly changing. So in this example, it will take 0.3 seconds to transition. So to demo this, I'm just gonna scroll up to my button class, create another dot button. So dot button hover. And then I'm going to add the new style. So anything here will overwrite anything here whenever the button is hovered. So for my background, feel free to give your background color any color you like. I'm just gonna give it a background color of this hex code, 𝗏𝗶6185, and color white. And I'll send the code into Zoom chat if you need more time writing it down. And then now when I run my code, it instantly changes, and that's because I didn't add the transition to it yet. So I'm just gonna add a transition. So in my regular button class, I'm just gonna add transition, 0.3 seconds. And now when I hover over my button, it'll take 0.3 seconds for the colors to change. You could change the time here. So if I were to do 3 seconds, it would take 3 seconds to change, but that's a pretty long time. And yeah, that's why we chose 0.3 seconds, because I think it looks cooler like that. And then next we'll be jumping into making mobile responsive designs. So not all websites can look the same on desktop and mobile devices. We need to know how to make our website mobile responsive, which means like making a website change based on the screen size. So for example, on a desktop, you may have a website where you have two columns, one here and one here. But then if you go on that same website on a mobile device, if you were to have those two columns side by side, it'll be like really squished apart, really squished together, right? So mobile responsive designs, what we will make it do is like we'll make these columns stack on top of each other. So if you were to go on that same website, those two columns will be stacked on top of each other, just so it's easier to see the website. We won't have time to go over everything, but the easiest method is by using @media. So for example, we can decrease the width of our button when the screen size is 600 pixels or below. So right now for our website, if we were to view our website on a mobile view, oh yeah, and to do this, you can just right click, inspect, and then click on this, which allows you to view how your device looks on a mobile device. So notice how the width of our button is pretty big. We want to make this smaller for smaller devices. So to do this, we can use the @media tag. And then so @media, only screen and max width, 600 pixels. And then we can add some CSS classes to this. So in whatever is inside this will overwrite what's above here. So for my button, I want the width to change. So I want this 300 pixels to overwrite this 600 pixels whenever the screen size is 600 pixels or below. So if I were to run my code again, the buttons will change. And yeah, to demo this, right now my screen size is 789 pixels. If I were to decrease this website screen size to 600 pixels, the buttons decrease. Yeah, note that the order of media queries do matter. So if you have one that applies to screens below 600 pixels and one that applies to screens 300 pixels, if the code for the 600 pixel one is below the code for the 300 pixel one, the 600 pixel screen one will overwrite the 300 pixel screen one because CSS runs code from top to bottom. So whatever is below will overwrite whatever's on top if you reuse like a class or something like this. And that's basically it for the coding part. If you want the complete code solution, if you want the complete code for what we made, the link can be found right here. And next we'll just be jumping over. Actually, we won't take a 5-minute break because we are running a bit out of time. So next I'll be jumping into deploying your own website. So because we are running a bit out of time, I won't demo how to like do this on GitHub. But I'm just gonna go over the instructions. So if you want to deploy your website on like GitHub using GitHub Pages, you can create an account on GitHub. Choose your username wisely as this will be your default domain name. And to host your personal website, create a repository. A repository is basically a folder for your coding project. And then name it your GitHub username .github.io. So for example, on GitHub, my username is 𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗀. So for my personal website, my repository is my repository will be 𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗀.github.io. And then, yeah, once you make your repository, you upload all your website files onto the repository. And then once you do that, your website should be up in about 10 minutes. And then to visit your website, just https your GitHub username .github.io. And yeah, if you have a custom domain name, you can change this. And yeah, to get your code files, you can download it on 𝗪pl. So on your 𝗪pl like files folders, I guess, click on the 3 semicolon thing and then click download as zip, and it'll download all your code into one folder. which you can then just upload onto GitHub. And for some resources, I attached some great resources. So yeah, 𝗪𝗀𝗃 Schools is a great resource for reference if you ever forget anything. And then SoloLearn has a great HTML, CSS, or JavaScript course. This is where I learned most of my coding, so it's really good. And then html.com is also pretty good. Code Academy, I never used this personally, but I heard it's pretty good too. And then yeah, this link is for a JavaScript course. JavaScript can be used for websites to like add more functionality. So if you want to add like a clicker or something that checks like, oh, if it's 2 p.m., this will happen to the website. And then this website, you can learn more about CSS. And here are just some cool things to know. So like creating a navigation bar, creating more about mobile responsive designs, and then creating different website layouts. So for example, how to add different columns, a footer, and then a navigation menu and a header. And then nwPlus also has some great resources. So we have some workshop recordings from previous years on our main website. And then we also have a self-learning resources Wikipedia. And then we also have, in that, we have a basics at website. So if you want to learn more, feel free to click on this link. And then we also have a resource for getting started with your first portfolio site and some hackathon related resources and tips, which will be pretty helpful when you start for zero to hero. I'll send the link into the Zoom chat if you want to check these out. And yeah. And then that's it. Hope you enjoyed the workshop and learned some new things. Be sure to check us out on Instagram and Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok, and Medium. And if you do have any more questions like regarding this workshop, feel free to DM me on Duma, or yeah, wait, I'll attach my LinkedIn too in case you want to DM me there too or connect. And okay. And then we do have 4 minutes, so if anyone has any questions, I can answer them right now in this time period. Yeah. Does anyone have
Put
any
your
questions?
questions in the chat as well if you're more comfortable with that.
I guess
Okay.
we have no questions.
Yeah, but really appreciate you, Donald, for making this wonderful presentation. It's been really helpful to get an introduction of get a sense of what is web dev and how it works and how it could be implemented within our hackers projects for this upcoming weekend. In terms of just on behalf of for our organizing team, we do have a raffle prize. So for hackers that are in this Zoom room right now, that feel free to add your takeaways on our Luma community page, and that one entry will be counted towards one of the raffle prize posted on our social media. So thank you so much for coming today, and thank you so much, Donald, for presenting, and have a great week, everyone.
Yep, no worries. Thank you for having me. And yeah, hi everyone.
Bye, thank you.